So there we have it. Got a load of comments already from people like um, people like Gary Wilkins, Chris Simone. Hi Gary. Again, yeah, Mike Cushman and Mike again. No, sorry, Gary again. And Mike again. There you go. So come on, Dave. We're waiting for you. We're waiting for you. But this is Talking Niagara. So just let me get into that. And hopefully, Dave will join us in the next few minutes when he can actually, he tells me I'm coming, right? I've been waiting for him. I sent him the link at 6:43. I've been waiting for him ever since, right? So there we go. No, nothing, right? That's the problem. So our show this morning is going to be okay. Just one more question. Looks like you might need a co-host to manage the comment section. Actually, when you get a lot of comments, it can be tough. And what I do is try and slot them in between when Dave's talking, I look at the comments and then kind of indicate that we got comments to actually add in, and I add those comments in. So basically, this morning, Talking Niagara, Wednesday, December 4th. So our morning talk show where we discuss news impacting Niagara Falls, etc. Some of the things that we're looking at is Trump thinking about making Canada the 51st state. What would happen if Assad is overthrown? Belgian sex workers getting access to contracts. And this looks like it's Mr. Wheeler coming in. Hey, Mr. Wheeler.
Hello.
Hello. He's right across the other side of the room. There you go. Right. Please fill out the stamp size complaint for. Please fill out this stamp size complaint form. Make sure you include your phone number and email. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah. Okay, so I was just saying, introducing everybody in the hope that you might actually come in, albeit 10 minutes late?
Oh, wow, I was really off time today.
At $20 a minute, that's a lot of dough, wonga there,
Take it out of my salary. Look,
take it out of your salary. I don't know what happened. I'm going to do that.
I don't know what happened. I think I fell back asleep and then woke up and thought I was already woke up because when I looked at the time, when I heard you're paying, it was 7:07. I'm thinking it's more like about a half an hour before that. I looked at the time, I couldn't believe it. So I think what I did was I must have fallen back asleep and woke up and thought I'd woke up at the time I was supposed to woke up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. So, this is interesting fallout of that Trudeau meeting at Mar-a-Lago over the weekend. Bernie Sanders says he supports Trump making Canada the 51st state. You what? No, but apparently it stems from a comment that was made by Trump that Trump said to the Prime Minister, if we can't survive by ripping off US, perhaps Canada could become the 51st state.
Yeah, and he may have said it as a joke, but I bet you he thinks.
I think he did.
Yeah, it did as a joke for sure, but I bet you he thinks that, like he thinks he could buy Greenland.
I don't think that you could really. I don't think you could. And if we went into the US, we'd have to go in as 10 separate provinces.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't have. Yeah, exactly. And all that. But Yeah. So
Yeah, because
yeah,
of the divergence across.
this is not a new joke. This is a joke that's come up every once in a while. Canada's going to be the 51st state. It's a thing we complain about sometimes, and our politicians or our journalists say, "What are we, the 51st state? Or how come we're acting like the 51st state of the U.S.?" Others say, you know, we should become part of the 51st state for jokes and et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see.
Yeah.
So it's nothing new. When they come up with it, I said, "Oh, there's that old trope again, the 51st state of, you know."
I
Now
know.
lately,
I know.
one of the
But
other
I
countries.
just had to add it, you know, and Mike makes the point that Trump wants our water.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure they want the water. Remember that big tap speech he made? Oh, all you do is just turn on this big tap, and all the water from Canada goes down here.
Yeah, like that is going to happen, you know. $10 a liter, man.
Well, what he's really talking about, I think he's talking about pipelines in the Columbia River that are already in the United States. So I don't know what he's talking about there, but
yeah, I don't know either, you know.
Anyway, yeah, he's not exactly. He's a little bit ignorant about
Gary makes the point. We're always waiting for wheels. Yep, we are.
Yes. Well, I was supposed to meet Gary yesterday, but something happened. This happens once in a while. You get a message, but you get it really, really late. Like Gary sent me a message, but I didn't get it. I was looking for it. We're supposed to go for wings, and I was with a friend of mine, and I told my friend I'm waiting for this message, and I was getting my new car at the time, or my new used car. So I'm trying, and I go through all the instruments on the car, trying to get my phone to match their Bluetooth and all that. And I keep looking at my phone. I get no message from Gary, but later on, it's supposed 7:00 at night. I'm looking through and all of a sudden, where did this come from? It was a message from Gary. So I thought he didn't get my original message to meet him. Anyway, oh well. I hope he caught a lot of trout. That's all I can
do. Yeah. I kind of knew that was a joke, but Bernie Sanders supporting it. Wow. Because Bernie's basically saying, yeah, he'd support it if they adopted our universal health care.
Yeah, well, of course, everybody's joking that, and that's a good thing. You know what I mean? With all the threats of tariffs and all the negativity out there, when they start making jokes and stuff like that, and even Bernie kicks in, you know, that's a little bit encouraging. You know, with all the negativity out there, that's a splash of humor, so that's okay.
Yeah. All right. So the next question is, if Assad is overthrown, what will happen in Syria? And if people don't know, Syria is basically under attack. The Syrian government is under attack by rebels right now, and they're currently they've already taken over. They've already taken over a couple of big wins recently, but the government forces held by President Bashar al-Assad are actually fortifying in the northern province of Hama.
Yeah. With all this other war going on, we forgot one of the longest wars ever going on, and that is the Syrian war. Remember, it goes way back to the Obama administration, where the famous red lines of Obama, you know, like this is my red line, but it never really happened. It's kind of like Joe Biden's red lines; they're meaningless. But aside from that, it's been a vicious, long civil war. The United States has backed parts of it. Unfortunately, the United States were backed. It was so-called the Syrian Freedom Army, but it got filled up with a lot of Islamists, and so it got really murky. On Bashar al-Assad's side, he has the Alawites and he has the Christians and he has some of the Sunnis on his side. What that means is the Alawites are an offshoot of a Shia Islam. They have been the ones that have been running Syria ever since the French have divided it up. The French created Syria, and the French and British created Syria, Lebanon, and all these other places to more or less for a divide and conquer thing. They took a piece of Syria out and they called it Lebanon. And they did that because half of the people that lived on that little strip were Christians. So they figured the half Christian, half Muslims, they could control them very well. And the rest of Syria, about 10 to, I don't know, there's a significant minority of Christians in Syria, maybe up to a third, I'm not sure. And they're allied with the Alawites against the rebels. Now, when the Syria rebellion began, it was like the Arab Street kind of thing, demonstrations, but it quickly spinned out of control, and Islamic forces took advantage of this. Right now, the country is split up. The Kurds in the east have a controlling interest in the east. The Alawites and the Christians and them, they were all around in Aleppo and Damascus, but they've lost Aleppo, which is the second biggest city, maybe the oldest city in the world.
Aleppo is actually, exactly, the second largest city in Syria, and it's fallen to Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, in recent times.
That is an Islamist movement. However, they're starting to, they're worried about their public image. So they have come out and say, yeah, we're Islamists, but we're not as bad as we used to be, kind of thing. We're a more moderate.
We're more moderate than ISIS or Al Qaeda. Yeah, we get it. Yeah,
it's kind of like
formerly known as they're formerly known as the Al Nusra Front.
Yes, I remember them quite well from reading in the past. Al Nusra Front. Well, them saying that they're much more moderate now. It's like the KKK saying they're going to take they're allowing Catholics to join as long as they're white.
Yeah. All right. So Mike's saying someone thought Russia was too busy to notice Syria.
Yeah. Now Russia's been heavily involved in Syria from the get-go. It's the one that
Syria's not. Yeah, Syria's basically, if you think about it, Syria's actually not that far away from some of these former Soviet states.
What?
Some of the states like Kazakhstan and that sort of thing. Well, Syria's.
No, they're nowhere near that.
Yeah, they are. They're not that far away geographically.
Syria has the Turkey on its north. It's got Libya or Lebanon on its west. It has Iraq and Iran and them on
Iraq on its east. Iraq on its east, yeah.
So in Armenia, and the only other one that has maybe Armenia and as I don't know even if it goes up as far as Azerbaijan. No, Armenia.
Yeah. Anyway,
Armenia is actually bordered with Turkey. No, so if you look at Syria, it's got Jordan to the south, it's Iraq to the east, and Lebanon to the west, and Turkey to the north. So it doesn't go anywhere near those places. The reason why Russia's in there is it's supporting Syria because, for one thing, Syria then allows it to have a huge port on the Mediterranean. Otherwise, Russia would have no place to dock its ships in the Mediterranean if it wasn't for its alliance with Syria. The other reason is Russia does not want a pipeline coming from Saudi Arabia up through to Turkey. It wants to block the access of an oil line that would compete with its own oil.
Yeah,
that's right.
The other thing. Okay, so what I was meaning is that Georgia Armenia, and Azerbaijan are actually northeast of Syria, only a few hundred miles away.
Yeah, so
Right, that's
it
what
really,
I
yeah. So there's no
it,
there
the
there's no
closest.
real
That's
there's
what
no
I was
real
meaning.
connection. There's no real connection with the Soviet Union or the Russians, other than Assad's dad got most of his weapons from the Soviet Union when he built up his military force there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Now, Russia has its own reasons for being there, and as I've said, it has to do with the port city, which has where the Russians can dock their navy, but also a couple of articles I read when they were trying to explain why Russia's involvement in Syria, they didn't want it to collapse, and they wanted to be able to control the area so that pipelines don't come from the other oil producing nations through Syria and become a competing source of oil in and around the Black Sea. So that's what one article said. So, but you find Russia all over the world now. You find them in Africa. The Wagner Group is still acting in Africa and other places.
Of course we do. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So they're making money as mercenaries, but they're also fighting the interests of the West, basically. Like they don't want to be completely bowled over by the West, and so they're just kind of fighting to hope that they can keep pace with the West somehow. I don't know. It's when I see Russia being involved in all these different places, I really don't find an adequate explanation for it from the Western press.
Yeah, but it's another one of these Russian influence, and Russia's been influencing there for quite some time anyway. We know that.
Yeah, with specifically with Syria, it has to do, of course, with oil.
Yeah.
It also has to do
with most
the dominance of the United States in the area. The United States effectively destabilized Iraq, destabilized Libya, not the United States and their allies, destabilized, and Syria was a united country with a pretty powerful army until its civil war. So was Iraq, had a powerful army and a united country under a dictator. So is Syria. Now, the only dictator that survived of Libya, Iraq, and Syria is Bashar Assad, but his country is a mess. But it has forced people that would otherwise not join one another together. Most of the Christians in Syria are behind Assad and Alawite because of this Nusrat Front, basically, these Islamists. They're in big trouble if the Islamists get into power. The Christians won't have a life there at all, and either will the Alawites, which are this Shia Muslim offshoot. These people are not just fighting. They're not really fighting for the dictator. They're fighting for their life. And geopolitics being geopolitics, the United States is the one that's supporting has been the one that's supporting the Islamists.
Yeah. And again, this war has been going on for quite some time, as you pointed out, 20 years, I think, somewhere near 20 years.
Yeah. Who could forget the infamous barrel bomb?
Yeah.
Remember the barrel bomb?
Right, and it's been... Pardon?
Remember the infamous barrel bomb?
Barrel bomb. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember. Dave?
Yeah. So that's all they said.
Yeah.
Remember the infamous barrel bombs? Like, it's been going on for such a long time, and we've forgotten the technique that the Assad government used. They would take a barrel full of nails and put an explosive in it, take a helicopter, take it over a city, drop the barrel in among where people lived, and there'd be just nothing but shrapnel going everywhere. The idea was to hurt and harm as many people as you can and terrify them.
Oh,
And a
yeah,
barrel bomb is a very terrifying instrument. Very cheap, extremely
absolutely
terrible.
it is. Yeah, and it's the same that's basically the same as some of the nail bombs that the IRA used to use back in the 80s.
Precisely the same.
Yeah, terrible thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So moving on, Belgian sex workers now have access to contracts, benefits, and pensions. There you go.
Yeah, this is the first in the world. Actually, it was kind of surprise to me because I did think that the sex workers in Marseille and places in Austria or Germany did
Well,
have.
I'm surprised. Go on.
No, you were about to say something. Go ahead.
I was surprised that hadn't happened in Amsterdam, decades ago.
Yeah, it seems to be. I Now the girls are sometimes they sometimes work for a brothel and sometimes work independently, but the girls have said there's also this is almost like a union organization happening, that the girls are sometimes unsafe because there isn't enough condoms and things like that. So they want their workplaces to be regulated, so they know when they go in to have sex with a client that they're going to be safe, that there's going to be condoms and whatever else to protect them, uh, that kind of thing. So I think it's a very good thing that they are protecting the sex workers. Now they have already protected the public by making sure that the sex workers have regular regular checkups. As a matter of fact, in places like Germany and Austria, if a hooker comes on to you, you can ask her for her papers, just so to make sure that she's had her health checks to make sure that she's not carrier of SD, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
so it seems to be like, I mean, sex work. Here we are all kind of cower away when we hear about sex workers, but I'll remind you in Marseille that the sex workers in Marseille collected a huge amount of money for a children's charity one time. Seriously, they collected money for a children's charity when one of the streetwalkers, and I forget which one it was. I think it's maybe one of the ones in Africa or Ethiopia or something like that. But whatever it was, she initiated that, and I suppose they were charging their customers a little extra and taking the money and giving it to charity, or asking the customers to pay a little more, giving it to charity. The thing I see positively here is you're not going to stop it. You're not going to stop prostitution,
No,
and
you're not. You're not.
yeah, and we have this
Yeah.
kind of, and I think we should bring it here. We should get our streetwalkers safe. Right now, our streetwalkers are usually victims of pimps who feed them drugs and keep them on the line. And their shelf life, a hooker's shelf life, is very, very short here in North America because the pimps
Well,
feed them drugs and keep them doing what they're
yeah.
doing.
Well, and also it's actually because of the status of prostitution not being illegal in Canada. It's actually improved that situation somewhat here in Canada, but again, not enough. Way, very much not enough, right? So they do need, I think the sex workers need protection, need support. And most of these, if you look at what some of these sex workers have been saying, it's them organizing themselves, them dealing with what is best for them and their co-workers.
Now, the new law which came into effect on Sunday is being hailed as the first comprehensive piece of national legislation addressing labor rights and protection for sex workers. I think that's very good. The protection part,
Yeah,
particularly. Now,
yeah.
sex workers
Protection
will
is
have,
important.
yeah, now sex workers' rights advocate are hailing it as a victory that will make the industry significantly safer, more equitable. But some feminist organizations argue that it formalizes an industry they say is inherently violent while failing to protect those who are most likely exploited. No, if you have, I that's exactly wrong. When the feminists are complaining about this, saying that it doesn't suit their idea of what women should be, I guess. But this is something that's been going on for all time, and uh,
Yeah.
and this is a chance for these ladies to be protected, and not only from the Johns,
Mm.
but also from the industry, the brothel systems, and exploit them as well. So this is a
Well,
ways and means that they can have fair wages, coverage, health coverage, maybe even a pension program, uh, that kind of thing.
well, that's actually one of the questions about, so the pushback, as you pointed out, comes from feminist organizations who decrying the system, who decrying this, basically arguing that prostitution is inherently violent, and it amounts to, and passing the law amounts to normalization of exploitation of women's bodies and sexuality.
No, it's exactly opposite. Exactly opposite.
Yeah,
The feminists
I
are
think so.
pretending. The feminists are pretending that this has not been going on for all time. The feminists are pretending that uh, that this is an exploitation when women choose to do it to make money. Yes, they will be exploited because women are more vulnerable. That's why they need protections. And
Well, part of the problem, of course, with anything like this, and it doesn't matter how unionized or how, a even if a woman has a bodyguard out in the street in the car, the trouble is when they go inside and behind closed doors, that person could turn into a monster.
well, it's very possible those are the risks they take. Uh,
Yeah.
but if they are all legal, all up in front, they can have a very good relationship with the police. Once the police aren't after chasing them down for turning tricks, then they
Absolutely.
can then they can concentrate on protecting them because they're vulnerable. Who mostly in our society, uh, prostitutes, the indigenous prostitutes, were disappear all over the place, are victimized steady. So if we had that here, uh, our indigenous prostitutes or our prostitutes that are street walking now will have means by which to get health care, means by which to be protected by the police. They wouldn't be afraid of calling the police if they had a problem. So these are the risks that prostitutes take. If you if you make it legal, you take the pimp out of it, you take the drugs out of it, you make sure that the STDs are taken care of. Uh, and to me, it's nothing but a plus plus plus. The feminists are really on the wrong foot on this one. They're trying to reinvent the relationship between men and women. This is a thing that's happened forever, and women have chosen to go into prostitution to make a life for themselves, usually through
So the
desperation.
argument by many the argument by many feminists is that they don't choose that life. They're forced
They
into that
do.
life.
They do choose it. They do. Have you ever
I know
talked to
many do.
prostitutes
I
in Europe?
agree. I agree.
Have you ever talked to
Many
prostitutes
do.
in Europe?
Yeah, I agree. Many do choose it. But I'm saying the argument of most of them that you hear from the feminists is that they don't choose it.
Here, a lot of women don't choose it initially because what happens is they get hooked on drugs. And the old story is you get a pimp and he gets the trust
Yeah,
of a young woman or a young woman, starts feeding her cocaine or in the old days it was heroin. And so you're back in the old days, you're like in the 40s or 50s or something like that. Your prostitutes were hooked on heroin basically. What happens is then once they're hooked on heroin, the pimp has ultimate power over them. Also, if they're hooked on any kind of other drugs. So you go out there and turn tricks, or you ain't gonna get any of your
yeah,
any coke,
oh yeah,
or you're not going to get a fix. That's what you're going to do. You're going to go out there and turn tricks. If you don't, I'm going to beat you. The prostitutes that used to get collected up on the weekends and put in jail. My neighbor who used to work at the police station said every Monday morning the girls were begging the police not to let them out of jail. Don't let us out. Because what happens is their pimp comes along and bails them out and beats the crap out of them for getting caught. So they would beg
yeah,
the police not to let them out, but they couldn't do anything else. Somebody came with the money and the paperwork, whatever, let out the hookers, and then the pimp took them away and beat them or withheld the drugs that they needed. And that's the way it works. So they here once you get hooked on drugs, the young ladies get hooked on drugs, and then it's easy to bend them towards prostitution. And I mean, and how
yeah,
many of the hookers did I
yeah, yeah.
see at 7-Eleven when it was still open on Victoria? You'd have the young hookers there. There were 16 going on 60. There were 16, 17-year-old girls looking, they were aging, sickly,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah. I know what you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
So that's
And
why
it's the
it's way better
same.
to have it legal.
Yeah, it's the same when it's the same. Unfortunately, with a lot of these women, especially when they are forced into it. Whereas I think this situation, if it's voluntary, if they've gone into that on a voluntary basis, that's fine, right? Okay. Anything else on that?
Only that you're not going to get rid of prostitution. Uh,
No, absolutely you're not.
it's more
Absolutely.
hidden.
You're not creating.
It's more hidden here in Niagara Falls than it used to be. There used to be areas where prostitution was just happening all the time. And if you wanted to know which of the police officers was a cop pretending to be a prostitute, look for the one that looked healthy and was the nicest looking one. Because most of the girls were, if you look closely, they were unhealthy looking, hard looking women. But if you saw
Yeah.
somebody that looked half normal, that was the top.
Well, it occurs to me that why would you go on the street when you could probably, look in a telephone directory or now on the internet?
That's probably where a
You
lot
know,
of it's happening now. A lot of
yeah,
the rub and tugs. I mean, the massage parlors. They used to. They're they were kind of a cover for prostitution, basically. The
yeah,
What they would do is they would have, the top. It's not illegal to have a topless massage, so they'd have a topless massage and stuff like that. And once they have a client, they were confident in, they could go the rest of the way, kind of thing.
yeah. All right. Okay. So while we're on the sex subject, unauthorized sexual enhancement products may pose serious health effects, according to the Canadian government, and they've listed a whole bunch of these.
Yeah, I I have to bring the article up because I read it very quickly, and yeah, so basically there are basically things like Viagra but they're being ingredients like Viagra being sold basically without prescription, and that can be dangerous, evidently.
Well, the other thing is, I noticed there's a red ginseng here, which is, I'm presuming, is supposed to be a sensory enhancement product.
Yeah, they may. I don't know if they're going to work or not work, or whatever. But I'm trying to find the article now. I think I'm the one that put it up, actually. Oh, there it is. It was a
I think you did, yeah.
So unauthorized. Yeah. So what you have here is Health Canada is warning the consumers that unauthorized sexual enhancement products were recently seized at a cigar store. I wonder if it's Gordon's Cigar Store on near Main and Ferry. I'm not sure, even if it's still there. So the issue, warning about unauthorized products used for skin lightening. Also, there's a couple different things here. One is for skin lightening that wasn't in the title. There are products.
That's not a sex enhancement product.
No, but
that's
I
not,
think
yeah.
No, that's not. But they threw it in there anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
So it's misleading that the article actually means something, that there are things that are being sold that you shouldn't buy that are not good for you. One is sexual enhancement products, which if it says here, or let's read it right off the article. It says, among the hazards identified in sexual enhancement products seized are that they're both being tested by Health Canada and found to contain sildenafil, a prescription drug used to treat erectile dysfunction that should only be used under the supervision of a healthcare, and tadalafil, another prescription drug used to treat erectile dysfunction that should only be used under the supervision of a healthcare professional. So that basically you have, they're selling stuff that actually should be supervised by a prescription. Although I don't know about that, because different jurisdictions in the States and Canada may have different criteria for using these drugs. You might find it in some place, and you might find it requiring a prescription in others.
Yeah, and I was going to say, it sounds like with some of these ones, you could probably get them openly on the web anyway.
You might be, yeah. And people can check if products have been authorized for sale. Now, that's another thing. Have they been authorized for sale? They may look like a regular product being put out there. You can, you can make a jar of cocoa, and it may look like it comes from a company and it's all being tested and gone through the regulatory process, but it may not have. So in this particular case, the Health Canada Drug Product Database and Licensed Natural Product Database, you have to go through there. Health Canada maintains lists of unauthorized health products that may pose serious health risks. The problem here basically is you're looking, guys want to get I don't know, something to keep them going during sex. I find a lot of young guys, they're looking for Viagra, and that not because they need it for erectile dysfunction. They just want to keep it going for a longer time. They want their erection to last longer than it would naturally. But they have no trouble getting an erection. They just want it to last longer and have more fun, basically. So. So
well, these are basically
there.
Yeah, the ones that they got in Niagara Falls, and they've got them in a number of other areas as well. The ones that they confiscated in Niagara Falls were from Cuban Cigar Studio at 5365 Ferry Street.
Yeah, that's the old garden store, old Gordon cigar store. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I would say that, yeah, be very careful. I don't think young men being young men. I'm thinking these are young guys buying it mostly because, like for the reasons I said earlier.
But, oh yeah, yeah. But remember, there's not just Niagara Falls. There's a whole heap of stores across the country that were raided, across the province that were raided, and have been found. In Guelph and Richmond Hill and Hamilton and Markham and places like that, all been raided to
Well,
be
they've come.
found to have these products.
Yeah, they've probably done a sting, basically, if you want to call it that, or something there where they've been following these products for some time, trying to figure out where they all go, and then hit them all at
Yeah,
once. Uh,
yeah.
so they're kind of illegal products. I would caution anyone that uses them to remember that they're using drugs that aren't regulated or not washed. So there is a possibility of
Well, the
doing damage to
majority,
the health.
yeah, the majority of these ones are what have what you call sildenafil and tadalafil in
Which I
them,
already
but
mentioned.
there's
Yeah.
also a number. Yeah, there's also a number of other drugs that they contain as well.
Yeah, most of
You
that
know.
would be pharmaceutical filler drugs. There's when you get those big hug and big vitamin pills and stuff, uh, the only reason why they're that big is the pharmaceutical companies found out that you think it's more if you get a big hug and big pill. The vitamin pill could be
Yeah,
much smaller. The vitamin pill could be very much smaller. And in other countries, it is. You get the same punch for a much smaller little pill. But because we have this idea that bigger is more vitamins, so a lot of that stuff is filler. It's just pharmaceutical. It won't do you any. It's just a filler that they can blend the stuff well and make it look bigger. So that sometimes it's a bonding agent, something where they can put it all so it would stick together. But basically, what you're doing here is you're buying something that hasn't gone through the food and drug. It hasn't been tested. It hasn't been vetted.
yeah,
So I would basically what they're saying is be careful. Now it didn't really say much about the the compound that makes your skin whiter. Those are all over the world too, and they can be dangerous as well. People like to mess with their skin
yeah.
color.
I don't know what it. I don't know what it is. About the skin color. The thing. The unfortunate. Your skin color is what it is, and unfortunately, you cannot change your skin color. Yeah, you can apply fake skin tan, suntan on your body, but that's going to last what 2 or 3 days, maybe a week.
Yeah, basically, you know what? Like a lot of people claim that this is a result of white colonialism and people who have darker skin want to be white because they think that's the better way to do it or lighten their skin, that kind of thing. I'm not. Maybe that's part of it, but I think it's just that women in general, maybe men too, but women in general like to change. They like to change the color of their hair. They white women go out and
Yeah,
get a tan to change their look, so they go out and get a tan. Black women, some black women put compounds on them to lighten their skin color. I'm not so sure they always do because they want to be white or look more white. It's because women do that kind of thing. They mess with makeup and stuff because that's part of being a woman. That's what they like to do.
yeah. And change their and they change their hair colors all the time,
Sure, I've
right?
got a friend. There's a lady at Toastmasters that is very feminine and expresses herself in hair or and clothes and other ways. Remember, in
Yeah.
France, women are very proud of being women, and they feel almost like a duty to be the best women they possibly can, which means,
Yeah.
so I don't completely buy the idea that they're using skin cream to lighten their shade to get in order to get more attention. I mean, some people might be doing that, but I have a feeling that sometimes they just do it for a change, like
Yeah.
they change their hair color.
And as Peter Biker says, for many folks, the grass is always greener on the other side.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
think, and I think we'll leave it there and move on. What do you think? All right.
But I would just
So,
want one other thing to say, that when I was in Ghana, they have the makeup counter has skin tones on a piece of paper, basically, and their skin tones from almost white to very black. And what
yeah.
the ladies do is match their skin tone to the color, and then from there they can find the best makeup that matches them
And
the
that,
best.
yeah, because basically it's about getting the right lipstick for the skin tone.
Yeah, and these
And,
are guides for
you
your
can
different.
do that. You can do that though. I'm not saying they'll have the same range of skin tones, but you can do that in. You can go to any of the Shoppers Drug Marts that do those. That have the counters. Lipstick counters and things like that. Any shoppers will do that as well.
Yeah, it's very
I'm not
similar,
saying they'll have the same range of skin tone.
but I was struck by the fact that they'd have this big on the counter. They'd have this big plaque there,
Yep.
and all the different skin tones, and the ladies would come and match it with their arms to the color there, and then use that as a guide, because there'd be a whole bunch of cosmetics made for that skin tone, and they could go to the right aisle basically and find those. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
So
I know what you're
this
saying.
idea that everybody wants that Africans want to put a lot of white stuff on them to make themselves look whiter. Maybe some do, but some just want to match their makeup with their skin tone.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. I get it. And as Peter Biker says, we always want something we don't have. Hey, I've got straight hair. I've been wanting wavy hair all my life. And when I was in my 20s, I had much longer hair than I do now. And this lady who was a hairdresser, she brought her kit home. She brought her hair curling kit home, and she did it on my hair one night. And I did all the hours that were necessary. And do you know what happened? My hair was nice and curly for 20 minutes, and then it started to just go straight. So I've got anti-curl hair.
Well, I too want something I don't have. I've got straight hair, so I want $10 million.
Why does straight hair come to $1 million? I don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know.
Moving.
That's basically about the only thing I want, right?
So moving on, the International Criminal Court lashes out at basically Russia and threats, and USA and Russia, and threats over accusations being made there, right? So the ICC is really kind of it's kind of weird, because the ICC has come out with a lot of oh, there it is. Okay. Threats against both Russia and the US, and the court has been threatening with draconian economic sanctions by other permanent member countries of the Security Council. And basically, if it were a terrorist organization, those sanctions would be in place already. Is what the judge has been saying.
This is very, very odd. Like when the ICC zeroed in on Putin as being a kind of a war criminal, everybody was Yahoo, Yahoo, including the United States. But now Netanyahu is being pointed out as a war hero. So now the ICC, Netanyahu is a war criminal. So the ICC is being threatened. It's being threatened by the allies of Israel, and that's coming in a message from Lindsey Graham, who's saying that anyone, Canada, Japan, or anyone else that is signatory to the ICC will find themselves being punished. What they're doing is they're saying there is a law that we will not accept. We will not accept the investigation of war criminality of Netanyahu. We will accept the one from Russia because we say that's okay, but we are now the biggest hypocrites in the world. We will not accept this against Israel. We will sanction you. We will punish you. So imagine if you had a judge here in Canada, and you are a crime organization, or let's say, and you were threatening the judge. Well, you kind of expect that because they're criminals. But imagine if the country itself, let's say somebody, like if you took, let's say SCC and Lavalin went to court, and Canada itself came and told the judge that they were going to sanction it and make it difficult for that judge to live if he didn't do what they said, not what the right thing is to do. This is I hope the world is watching very closely here, because the first one that was to bully the ICC was Russia. When the ICC went after the Russians, they came after, started sanctioning and threatening the judges and the court with all manner of things. Of course, the United States complained about that. They say, oh, well, you shouldn't do that. There you go. That's what Russia's all about. But now we have this war criminal called Netanyahu, and the United States will not accept it, and are threatening the people who are trying to administer justice. And they're threatening the countries that will support the country that administer justice. And we have found already France really in a tight spot here. They are signatory to the ICC, just like Canada is. And France says, well, are you going to arrest Netanyahu if he comes to or Gallant, if he comes to France? And they wiggled and wormed and says, oh, we don't have to, because they're not signatory to the ICC, so we don't have the right to arrest them. That's baloney, because they would have arrested anyone else that came to their country that was pointed out. So that's their excuse. When Trudeau was asked, would they arrest Netanyahu if he came to Canada, he never directly answered the question. He just says, we support the ICC. We support that. We will do what we have to do. But he never did answer whether or not, if Netanyahu specifically came here, will you arrest him? So France is trying to get wiggle room. Germany too, probably. This is very unfortunate, because this is supposed to be an unbiased court, and they've worked very hard to build a case. They brought it. The South Africa brought it before the ICC a long time ago, and they've been building a case ever since. And now that the case has come, they're getting nothing but threats. And it really, really makes, well, we can expect it from Russia, but what we are getting is threats from the United States that pretty much says, we don't care about justice. We don't care about the rule of law. We say we do, but we don't, because we're not going to, we're going to really put a whole lot of pressure on the ICC. We're going to threaten their judges. We're going to threaten their lawyers. We're going to threaten their system with sanctions. And, really, seriously?
And Senator Lindsey Graham is pointing out that the Republican Party will have both control of both branches of Congress in January, and and basically attacking the ICC.
These are
and his point is that any ally, Canada, Britain, Germany, France, if you take up and help the ICC, we're going to sanction you.
Yeah, it's a big bully. It's like a gangster. Like, you cannot make your own decision, he is saying. If you make your own decision and support the International Court of Justice, we're going to come for you. We are.
Yeah.
We're going to come for you. We're going to hurt you because we don't like the decisions of the court. Well, who cares sometimes? I mean, and yeah, pretty much. Lindsey Graham, who was who found his way out from under a stone one day and somehow become a government official.
Oh my God! Hateful much?
Yeah.
Hateful
Well,
much?
I listened to the guy. He says he wants to drop a nuke. And this is a guy that says things. If he said them in Canada, he would be completely out of government. But he can say things. He can drop a nuke on Gaza and other hateful things that he can say. And he's probably one of the most willfully ignorant persons I've ever heard of. Now, to tell you what kind of hypocrite he is, he roundly denounced Trump at every turn for a very long time, had all kinds of terrible things to say about him. But once Trump got in power, he turned around like a wiggle, spineless dude he is. Oh, I love you now, I love you. And basically, I don't know how they get these politicians in. Like, he's greasy if they come. Oh man, I don't know. A real abuse of power, this guy.
Yeah, and he clearly went to the ring kissing ceremony.
Yeah, a lot of these guys fell into the line. Like McConnell, who was the speaker, was the party leader of the Republicans up until recently. He had a lot of bad things to say about Trump, but he sees his ability. Now he's probably the one that was the most honest. He says, well, the guy has the ability. I don't like him, but he's better than the Democrats, so I'll support him. He's closer to aligns with my politics. I don't like the guy. And then he softened his stance on him. Vance denounced him incredibly. Lindsey denounced him. Rubio, all these guys that he have, even I think even Elon Musk and all these guys. But what they cannot deny is the ability of this guy to Trump to gain power and to keep it and to get people to vote for him.
And Peter Biker makes the point that term limits were designed for guys like Graham.
Yeah, God. But the whole idea is the ICC they have U.S. judges on the ICC, so the U.S. does participate. But when it's like going to the court in Canada and saying, well, we don't want you to do your job in this particular case. We don't want you to we don't want you to find a murderer guilty of murder in this particular case because he's a buddy of ours. Can you imagine that? Well, this is pretty much what the ICC is up against.
Oh, and by the way, here's a few bills to make sure he's not guilty. Okay.
Yeah. First of all, they try that kind of thing. First of all, they try to buy them off. First of all, they try to convince them that this is not a good idea. And then they come up with the threats. And this is not new. They have already threatened judges. When one of the judges was investigating possible, because this is what the law is supposed to do, right? They hear stuff, so they go and investigate. So they were investigating possible transgressions by the U.S. Army in Afghanistan. And just by doing that, the judge was threatened and sanctioned. Just by going to look to see if there was anything to it, the U.S. Threatened and sanctioned him. So they are not interested in justice. They're interested in telling you what is the truth or not the truth. this is a very bad look. If you are a judge, you are part of the law, and you get into the ICC, and you're trying to do your job in the ICC, and you're constantly threatened by the powers that be to tell you, if you do your job, you had better look at it our way, or we're going to sanction your family and you. We're going to make sure your assets are seized. Why are you seizing those assets? Not because they're a criminal, is because they're judging criminals that you don't want judged.
Yep. All right. I think we can leave it at that point, Dave.
Yes, indeed. Pray for peace, everyone. I hope the green bastard got a lot of trout out of the stream this morning. And
I hope so too.